welcome to Food for Days, and today I'm going to show you how to plant some amazing herbs to have in your kitchen ready to go for when you want to cook. Herbs are an essential part to any home cooking. It adds a whole bunch of flavor, and the fresher the herbs, the tastier your food will be. As you might know, buying herbs at the shops can be quite expensive and they tend to go off quite easily. But having herbs in your house, in your windowsill or somewhere outside where you can have easy access to it whilst you're cooking is really handy, and it brings so much life to your home. I've been waiting a really long time to finally be able to do this, so I'm really looking forward to helping you also bring some herbs into your home. Here I have a really big variety of herbs. I got as many as I could, to be honest, but you don't have to have this many. Just pick the ones you like the most, start easy, and then work your way up to having more. Planting herbs is really easy, and there are a few tricks that I will show you today so that you can actually get more out of the same plants that you bought. Spring onions, I never buy a seedling from a nursery. When you go to the shops and you buy spring onions, make sure you get them with a root. I've already eaten some of this, and this is the new growth already just from leaving it in the water. Make sure that you change the water every day, because spring onions will go really slimy and yucky if you don't change the water. So if you're not ready to plant them in the soil yet, make sure that you're changing the water every day, and that the water is just on the roots, not on any of the actual stem, otherwise they'll also start going bad really easily. As you can see, these are really healthy roots and they'll turn into beautiful little plants. Basil is another one that I bought as a bunch. I pruned it a little bit so there were less leaves, but enough to still grab the sun and send energy to the little stems to start creating roots. I simply made a 45-degree cut on the stem just before the node, and I'd have at least 1 or 2 nodes in the water. The roots are going to sprout from the nodes or from the cutting. So make sure you have at least 1 node and the cutting under the water to start creating roots. And when we plant, I'll show you a little trick to how to make sure that these roots keep growing under the soil for it to not just send energy up to the leaves. These have only been in the water for maybe a week. So you can see they're already creating roots, but you could leave it even longer to have more roots before you're putting them in the soil. The way I cut these basil stems, you can also do it with rosemary. It just takes a lot longer and you have to keep changing the water with the rosemary. Some other herbs in particular, sage and parsley, sometimes even basil, they will come in really big clumps when you buy it. This is actually many plants. Same with the sage. As you can see, it comes in quite a few clumps, but each one of these is a plant. So when we plant these, we'll pull it apart and separate each plant so that they have enough space and nutrients to grow into much bigger plants, healthier plants, less prone to bugs and diseases. You'll get more from just buying one little clump. When we plant these herbs, we want to make sure that we are in each little pot planting a variety of herbs so that each pot has a little bit of biodiversity, and different herbs are actually kind of helping each other with different nutrients, not taking up too much of the nutrients from the one little pot soil. As you can see here, I even bought a couple of flower pots just to attract some pollinators, and also, as you can see, we even have a little bee here already, which is awesome to see. Especially the marigold, it's really good to keep little pest bugs away and once again bring more biodiversity and different sort of nutrients to the soil, since we are already limiting these plants to such a confined small space. What I'm using to create this little herb garden are these terracotta pots. I just gave them a little bit of a rinse on the outside. Next, I have my soil preparation, which I'm using dirt from the backyard, some store-bought soil mix, and some homemade compost. So I'm just bringing them all together, turning it into this beautiful fluffy soil. As you will see later on, the soil that the herbs came in was quite clay. So one thing I do think I could have done, taking into consideration the end result, is making up for the amount of clay that I added to the soil. Just keep in mind the quality of the soil the plants that you're going to plant come in, and adjust the other, let's say, ingredients of your soil to make sure it ends up with the right fluffiness that your plants will need. Here I'm getting the herbs ready to pot. I am gently loosening up the roots of the herbs. As I mentioned, some of the herbs, when they plant a whole bunch of seeds, there's a whole bunch of different plants that have been growing in a clump together. So if you can gently pull them upwards, try not to rip any of the roots. That way you'll end up with many plants. Now it's time to pot them. These pots aren't too big, so I just put a little bit of soil at the bottom, placed the roots in, and topped it up with more soil. I'm placing at least 3 different types of herbs per pot to create a little bit of biodiversity, bring a little bit more nutrient equity into each of these mini microbiomes. To help with the transplant, as soon as I've got all the plants in the pots, I make sure to give them a little bit of a prune. With the thyme and the rosemary, I just snipped off a little bit of the tips. With the sage and the basil, I just picked off some of the bigger leaves. With the coriander and the parsley, I made sure to remove all of the yellow leaves and all of the really small ones, just leaving the bigger ones, just enough with all of these plants to still give it enough opportunity to absorb the nutrients from the sun to help it grow, sending more energy down to the roots and giving a little bit of a boost to stimulate the plant to grow. When it comes to watering, if you have other liquid nutrients that you can dissolve into the water, that's even better. The plants will absolutely love them. But if you just have water, that's absolutely fine as well. Give them a really good water to begin with. It'll help bring soil around the roots, really pack them in, and it'll just help with the transplant process that they'll be adapting in the first week or so. Tap water or hose water is fine, but if it ever does rain and you're keeping these indoor, I recommend putting them out in the rain for an hour or 2 just to give them a little bit more natural water, as most of our tap waters always have added things in them. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I hope you're giving it a go as well and bringing some edible greenery into your home, your kitchen, to boost your cooking. And you know, these can even be a great gift for any of your friends, or if you have a friend who has been talking about maybe putting a herb garden in their home, now you know you can send them this video and they'll be good to go. I look forward to showing you future videos of how these plants grow and develop into my little nook, and see more photos of your herb gardens as well. You're watching Food for Days.